Chapter 9. Strange Days Indeed. As I edged closer to the source of the low chatter, I noticed a couple seated at the bar, their conversation a soft hum in the cosy ambience. The pair seemed engrossed in a lively exchange, oblivious to the world around them. One was gesturing animatedly, laughter bubbling from them in a way that made the air around them feel lighter, more inviting. The other nodded, their smile a quiet beacon of warmth in the light of the diner. It was this scene of camaraderie and ease that I was so absorbed in, trying to catch the snippets of their dialogue, that I completely missed Terry's approach. His greeting caught me off guard, a sudden presence at my back that made me jump. "You scared me to death!" slipped out before I could catch it, the irony of my words hitting me only a heartbeat later. Terry's laughter, light and untroubled, filled the space between us, dispelling the brief spike of my surprise. "Name's Terence, but everyone calls me Terry," he introduced himself, his voice carrying an easy friendliness. Before I could dwell any longer on the shock of his silent arrival, he gestured towards the bar. "Why linger in the shadows, when you can join the party up front?" As I took in Terry's appearance, his suit sharp, but unmistakably from another decade, complete with what I suspected were shoulder pads, and his hair slicked back in a style that spoke of meticulous grooming, I couldn't help but focus on the immediate oddity of his fashion. It was like stepping back into a time capsule, one that Terry seemed to wear as comfortably as his own skin. The realization that I was about to interact with someone so distinctly out of time, yet so at ease in this strange diner, grounded me back to the peculiar reality of my current existence. Terry led the way to the bar, a smooth confidence in his step that I couldn't help but envy a little. "Meet Jenna and Marcus," he introduced, gesturing to the couple who looked up with welcoming smiles. "And this is... I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name." It's TP, I managed, my voice sounding strange to my own ears. It dawned on me then, this was the first conversation I'd had since my... transition. Jenna's laugh was light, infectious. "Well, TP, welcome to the club. First time here?" Marcus offered a hand, which I instinctively reached out to shake before remembering my current state. "Nice to meet you. Terry here was just telling us about his latest, let's call it an adventure." Their ease with each other, and now with me, painted a picture of a rapport forged in the most unlikely of circumstances. As we settled into the conversation, I found myself relaxing for the first time in what felt like forever, drawn into the warmth of this newfound fellowship. Terry effortlessly commandeered the conversation, weaving stories of his recent adventures in Boston with the skill of a seasoned storyteller. He brought the city to life, from the electric atmosphere of Fenway Park to the labyrinthine routes of the T, Boston subway. His narratives offered a peek into an existence that persisted vibrantly beyond the veil of mortality, a concept that intrigued and inspired me. My admission of trekking from Boston on foot elicited a mixture of astonishment and mirth. "Walking? That's a rookie move," Jenna said with a laugh, a sentiment that seemed to resonate with the group. They let me in on a secret known to seasoned travellers of our kind, the American coach system. A network of buses like Greyhound, spacious and often underfilled, perfect for our spectral hitchhiking without the added discomfort of buzzes from close human encounters. Terry's tales took a comedic turn as he described the foray along the Charles River. "Imagine my surprise," he began, his voice tinged with mischief, "when I stumbled upon a group attempting yoga on paddleboards. They swayed and stumbled like they were navigating a tavern's deck rather than calm waters." The imagery of those precarious attempts, ending inevitably in splashes, elicited roaring laughter from us all. Terry's storytelling didn't just entertain, it underscored his affability and knack for finding humour in the human and post-human condition. Finishing its tale with a chuckle, Terry remarked, "Being there, amidst the chaos of falling yogis, was a spectacle of sheer delight. It served as a humorous reminder that life, and indeed our current existence, teeters on the edge of balance and surprise. The trick is to savour the instability." His recounting did more than amuse. It knit us closer, sharing in the joys of his experience and the universal truth that in life, as in afterlife, it's the unexpected wobbles that often bring the most joy. As laughter filled our small corner of the diner, I couldn't help but feel a bit out of my depth. Social interactions weren't exactly my forte, but watching Terry, Jenna and Marcus interact with such ease, I found myself wanting to join in. To not shy away as I would have just over a week ago. Has it only been a week? I marvelled internally, surprised by the rapid change in my circumstances and my sudden eagerness to engage with this new community. As Terry continued the story of his trip to Marcus and Jenna, I couldn't help but notice their attire. Both dressed in what appeared to be their bedclothes, a detail that seemed oddly intimate and personal. Marcus, with his slightly greyer hair, seemed a bit older than Jenna, both hovering somewhere in their 50s, if I had to guess. Terry, just a tad older than Marcus, rounded out this eclectic group. Curiosity got the better of me, and I found myself asking, "How long have you been at this?" referring to our shared existence. They exchanged a glance before sharing that they had passed around 15 years ago. Marcus explained they had been the victims of a house fire, sparked by an electrical fault in their basement. "We never woke up," Jenna added, a hint of solemnity in her voice. That explained the pyjamas, I thought. As Marcus mentioned the electrical fault, Jenna shot him a look that was playfully accusatory. He caught her gaze and defended himself with a, "What? I told you I'd get round to it." It was clear that this was an old debate between them, one that had likely been revisited many times over the years. Despite the apparent contention, it was obvious any real anger had long since faded, replaced by a gentle ribbing that spoke volumes of their enduring bond. Marcus shared that the tragic event had unfolded in their home in Portland, and they had slowly made their way down here, opting to stay as they weren't ready to part. Yet. Part? I found myself asking, the concept unfamiliar yet intriguing. "Yes, we're headed in different directions from here," Jenna elaborated with a softness in her voice that hinted at both resignation and acceptance. "The pull?" I ventured, trying to understand why they'd be heading off in different directions. "If that's what you call it," Marcus responded. "We named it the calling." That's when Terry piped up, sprinkling his own brand of spice into the mix. "I reckon it's akin to the nudge," he amused, the grin audible in his voice. "It's all rather understated, like the cosmos giving you a gentle shove towards your next grand scene. It ain't half bad once you've been round the block." His nonchalant mention of mastering the nudge caught me off guard. Terry delved deeper. "Once you land in your designated haunt, that pressing sense of haste just evaporates, particularly if your other half isn't on the scene." "Other half?" My bewilderment was palpable. Terry shot me a knowing look, amusement dancing in his eyes. "You're truly green, aren't you?" He chuckled before explaining the concept of being magnetically pulled to a special place post-mortem, a place meant to be shared with another soul. He shied away from pinning it down as something as concrete as soulmates, casting an empathetic glance towards Marcus and Jenna. He divulged his own pilgrimage was bound for near Salem, yet, upon arrival, he found it bereft of company. "I'd pop back now and then, hopeful, but it's been a lonesome wait." He spoke of anticipating a clarion call to herald the arrival of his counterpart, a signal he's yet to receive. As the conversation unwound, Terry's insights into our journey highlighted a crucial aspect of our existence, our pull to a specific place, driven by an unseen force we had yet to fully understand. "It's like being pulled to a part of the world, but not knowing why until you get there, or don't," he mused, his gaze distant, lost in thought or memory. Marcus and Jenna exchanged a look, a silent communication that spoke volumes of their shared apprehension. "It's a strange comfort, knowing there's a place where you're meant to be, yet daunting not knowing what or who awaits," Jenna added, her voice a mixture of hope and resignation. The notion of someone waiting for me at this destined location fascinated me. "So, It's a journey to find what? A missing piece? I ventured, trying to grasp the concept. Terry nodded. Precisely, my friend. But remember, not everyone's piece is meant for the same jigsaw. His words offered a new perspective on the afterlife, suggesting our paths were as varied as our lives had been. The idea that Marcus and Jenna might be headed in different directions, despite their obvious bond, added a poignant layer to their story. But here, now, we're together, Marcus said firmly, squeezing Jenna's hand, a testament to their undiminished connection. You know, I reckon it's more about the ride than the arrival, Terry mused, his voice tinged with a reflective yet somehow cheery melancholy. I just didn't grab that in my hustle to get here. Caught up in the rat race without even knowing the cheese was back where I started. He let out a soft chuckle, shaking his head slightly as if to clear away the cobwebs of nostalgia. Thought I'd hit the ground running. I did. But turns out sprinting's no good if you're on the wrong track. It's the strolling, the looking around and taking it all in that counts. Who knew? When I inquired if everyone experienced this compelling pull, Terry offered some clarification. Almost everyone does. But it was Marcus who added a nuanced layer to our understanding. Not the misfits, apparently. As Marcus mentioned the misfits, a light bulb went off in my head. Could the violent encounter I had in Waltham have been one of those so-called misfits? I recounted the tale, their nods confirming my suspicion. Terry elaborated on the misfits as souls that had lost their way, driven to madness, either being tethered too long to their physical remains or through the agony of too much pain after death. It was a sobering thought, one that painted the afterlife in shades far darker than I'd imagined. I'd been calling them wraiths, I explained. Jenna shared a haunting story of a companion they had travelled with. Caught in a crowd of the living, the pain overwhelming their spirit to a breaking point. They were never the same after that. Didn't stick around much longer, she said, a note of sadness threading through her words. All too, I found myself saying, recalling the painful lesson of my own about the dangers of touching the living. This led me to explain the few rules I'd come to understand so far, detailing my own experiences and the lessons learned from the painful jolt of contact with the living, to the particular freedom that came with being discovered post-mortem. There's plenty more rules than that, Terry chimed in, his statement hinting at a complex tapestry of laws governing our existence in this realm, far beyond the few I had stumbled upon. Chapter 10. Comfortably Numb. Terry's departure into the night, under the pretext of savouring the evening, left a quiet hum in the diner that beckoned me to explore. With Marcus and Jenna's laughter a comforting backdrop, I wandered away from the warmth of their company towards the shelves that lined the diner's walls. The cans and jars sat there, an array of preserved history, and to my surprise, I found myself able to interact with them. Lifting a can, the weight in my hand felt unusually grounding, a sensation I realised I had missed. The futile attempt to open it, though, served as a humorous reminder of my current limitations. Probably for the best, I mused aloud. I doubt canned peaches age like wine. The newspapers and magazines offered a softer, more pliable interaction. Their pages turned under my fingers, a tactile connection to the past that felt almost luxurious. Amidst the array of periodicals, a copy of Popular Electronics from the 60s drew me in. Its pages a stark contrast to the sleek digital devices that defined my last years. Settling into a booth with the magazine, I was struck by the simplicity and ingenuity of the era it represented. To think, there was a time when a weekend project could revolutionize your living room, I chuckled, glancing at the fabric outline of my silent phone, now a relic in its own right, nothing more than a pocket weight. The diner, with its aura of timeless preservation, offered a strange comfort. It was a bubble where the rules of the spectral and physical worlds merged, allowing me a semblance of normalcy. Here the cans and magazines were not just artifacts, but links to a life I remembered, tangible connections in a world where touch had become a rarity. The sense of security within these walls was palpable, a sanctuary from the uncertainty that lay beyond its doors. Looking out the window from my booth, the night sky unfolded in a tapestry of stars, unmarred by the light pollution that had blanketed the skies of my urban existence. The constellations, so vivid and clear, seemed almost within reach, a reminder of the vast, unknowable universe that stretched out beyond my spectral journey. It was a view that lent a peaceful context to my current state, a cosmic backdrop against which my personal narrative seemed both significant and infinitesimal. In this strange diner, a ghost building that defied the ravages of time, I found an unexpected anchor to both the past and the present. It was a place where the soul of the building itself had somehow preserved these objects, integrating them into its essence and, by extension, into mine. As I flipped through the magazine, lost in thoughts of circuits and solder, I realised that this was the closest I had come to feeling alive since my transition. The night outside, with its brilliant display of stars, seemed to echo the possibilities that lay ahead. Within the diner's walls, I found not just remnants of the past, but a bridge to understanding my place in this new existence. The security, the interaction with objects that had long outlived their original owners, and the clear night sky all wove together into a moment of profound connection. As I absorbed the articles on homebrew electronics, a smile found its way to my lips. The ingenuity and resourcefulness of these hobbyists, armed with little more than transistors and a soldering iron, mirrored the adaptability I now faced in navigating the spectral realm. My journey, much like theirs, was one of exploration and discovery, of finding new ways to connect with the world around me, however altered it may be. As the night deepened, Terry sauntered back into the diner, the door closing softly behind him, and yet somehow still staying open. The serene look on his face suggested he had indeed found what he loved about this time of night. "You know," he began, his voice carrying a blend of nostalgia and amusement, "there's something about the hush of twilight that really puts the day's hullabaloo into perspective." He settled into his chair, a contemplative look crossing his face as if he was sifting through the archives of his memory. "It's the quiet, the kind that wraps around you like a cool breeze after a scorcher of a day. Makes all the hustle and bother seem, well, part of a bigger dance," he mused, his gaze drifting off as if he could see the intricate steps of this dance playing out before him. "Didn't quite catch that in my hurry to get wherever it was I thought I needed to be." His words sketched a scene of calm within the whirlwind. "Suppose it's just about the moments, not just the milestones," he concluded, his voice a soft echo of the wisdom gleaned from a journey taken at full tilt, only to discover the beauty in its pauses. I listened, intrigued by his perspective, feeling the comforting hum of the diner wrap around me like a warm blanket. The hours we spent talking, laughing, and sharing stories made the place feel less like a strange way station between worlds and more like a home. When morning light began to filter through the windows, casting the diner in a soft glow, the conversation took a turn towards farewells. Jenna and Marcus, ever the gracious couple, wished me well on my journey with warm smiles and promises to meet again somewhere down the road. "The journey's never really over," Jenna said, her hand finding Marcus's. It was then Terry, with a spark of spontaneity in his eyes, declared he'd accompany me westward. "Seems like you could use the company, and I've been meaning to stretch my legs a tad," he joked, though the genuine kindness behind his words was clear. The idea of travelling with someone who knew the ropes, and who could share in the humour and the discovery of it all, was somewhat comforting. As we stepped out of the diner, Terry pointed down the road. "Next on the agenda, snagging us a westbound coach. That option's kinder to the likes of us than those flying tin cans." His casual mention of the transportation limitations for spirits like us sparked a mix of curiosity and amusement in me. "No high-flying adventures for us then?" I quipped, earning a chuckle from Terry. Our departure from the diner, under the early light of dawn, felt like the beginning of a significant chapter. Leaving Jenna and Marcus behind was bittersweet, but the road ahead with Terry promised not just answers, but a friendship I hadn't expected to find in this in-between place. As we made our way, Terry's stories of past travels and the folks he'd met along the way painted the world in vibrant hues I was eager to see for myself. His declaration to join me, a gesture of friendship and guidance, solidified my resolve to face whatever lay ahead, with the bright sky above us, a hint at a canvas of possibilities. And so, with a newfound companion by my side, the journey west began. A quest not just for understanding, but for connection in a world that was slowly revealing its depth and beauty to me. After we had taken a few steps, basking in the crisp embrace of the morning, Terry threw a glance over his shoulder, his eyes dancing with a blend of mischief and sombre understanding. "You know, I was having a bit of a laugh about the whole air travel thing," he confessed, his voice a careful mix of levity and gravity. "But between us, flying's a no-go zone for those like us, and not for lack of trying." He leaned in, lowering his voice as if to share a secret, or perhaps to shield us from the weight of the truth. "This realm, you see, has got its own set of rules, boundaries that aren't kind to those who dare to test them. Imagine, if you will, attempting to soar upwards, only to be met with a pain so fierce, it feels like you're being split right down the middle. Then, to add insult to injury, you're hurled back to earth with all the grace of a lead balloon." The earnestness in his explanation painted a stark picture, making the perils of their condition all too clear. Falling from such a height, it's not really the descent that's the problem, but rather the abrupt greeting with the ground at the end, he concluded, his typically playful tone subdued by the seriousness of his warning. The thought sent a shiver down my spine, despite the lack of physical sensation. Terry's cautionary words painted a vivid picture of the risks involved in attempting to breach the limits of our existence. "It's not just about the pain," he added. "Those who have tried find themselves changed. It's a quick path to becoming a misfit." I nodded, absorbing the gravity of his advice. Terry's guidance, though delivered with a blend of jest and earnestness, underscored a reality I was still coming to terms with. The rules of this existence were as strict as they were strange, and the consequences of ignoring them dire. "We'll stick to buses, my friend," Terry concluded with a smile, patting me on the back. "The scenic route's more our speed anyway." And with that he continued down the road, the dangers of flying relegated to a cautionary tale, as the world in front of us unfolded with endless possibilities.